All right, welcome, everyone. My name is Geo Brandon, aka GOB. We are about to start the Geo Show. Just a couple of house cleaning issues for everyone. If this is your first experience with the Geo Show, it is at the beginning of our school year, our semester. So we have a lot of new people here this year, a lot of new teachers. And just so everyone is up on the same page with us, it is an interactive program. So this is an interactive virtual field trip. So you can interact with our show in one of three ways. One is the Kahoots game. You can log in again to kahoot.it on any device. You can play as a classroom or you can play as individual students if you're a one-to-one school. If you like to roam around the classroom and you don't want to stick by the computer teachers, you can send in your questions to hashtag GEOshow if you're not one of our own camera classrooms. I'll be monitoring the hashtag GEOshow. And after the show, if you still have burning questions or you would like to present some of your fun facts you've researched about volcanoes, go over to Flipgrid. So we are introducing Flipgrid this semester as well. And I'll give you that URL as well. So again, hashtag GEOshow for Twitter. Kahoot's ID today is 344027. Pay attention, explorers, because if you win today's Geo quiz, you will get a postcard from me, GOB, from the Learn Around the World studio. And again, you can put in all your questions, comments, or fun facts that you find over at Flipgrid. Just go to flipgrid.com/GeoShow and you will find our Geo Grid. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's show, Volcanoes of Guatemala, and we are now live. Explorers, are you ready?
Ready?
All right. Welcome, all explorers. You are now watching the Geo Show, and the title of today's Geo Show is Volcanoes of Guatemala, brought to you by Learn Around the World. Okay, you can play along with today's show using Kahoot. All you have to do is enter in that game pin over at kahoot.it. 344027. Again, 344027. I'll put it in your Zoom chat boxes so you'll have it on hand, teachers. But we're going to go ahead and test it out to make sure it's working, because technology is great when it works. And we're going to test it with a survey question today. So everyone, grab your devices if you're playing along with us on the Kahoot game. If you're having trouble getting logged in, don't worry. I will, the first couple of questions are not worth points, so you will still have an opportunity to win that postcard from me later on in the show, even if you're not logged in quite yet. So I'll give you about another second or two while I type in the game pin so you have it in your chat box of your Zoom window. All right, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and test out those Kahoots. Remember, guys, I'm only giving you 10 seconds to answer these questions, so you need to be fast with your little digits. All right, let's go. Today's survey question is, where is Guatemala? Does anyone know where it is? Where is the country? Is it in red Africa, blue Central America, yellow South America, or green Asia? All right, so the majority of you got it correctly. So Central America is where Guatemala is located. If you don't know where that is, well, let's find out right now. Because you are watching the Geo Show, ladies and gentlemen, and on the Geo Show, location matters. So where's Guatemala? Let's check it out. So if we look at our big blue ball we're sitting on right now, let's spin it around and check out Central America. Let's zoom in and we'll pause it right there. So this is Guatemala. And Guatemala, if we look at the countries that border Guatemala, so I'm going to shade in up top here. So this is the country of Mexico. And to the east, we have Belize in blue. Honduras in blue, and El Salvador in blue. But right there in the middle is the country of Guatemala. And Guatemala, we're going to visit 3 locations today in Guatemala along a mountain range. So we're obviously talking about volcanoes today, and we are going to visit 3 locations today through this mountain range that runs through the country of Guatemala. One of the locations is called Lake Atitlan, as we zoom in here from our satellite image. We have another location, which is Antigua, which is an old capital, and Volcan Pacaya, which is an active volcano. And those are our 3 locations that we're going to visit on today's GeoShow. And why is Guatemala such a great country to talk about volcanoes with? Well, our first vocabulary word today is the Ring of Fire. Can everyone say Ring of Fire?
Ring of Fire.
Okay, Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire is an area of the world that basically it's on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. And why is this an important area when we're talking about volcanoes? That's because 3/4 of all volcanoes and 90% of all earthquakes in the world happen somewhere along the Ring of Fire. That's how it gets its name. And Guatemala is located along the Ring of Fire. That's why it has so many volcanoes. And why are there so many volcanoes and earthquakes along the Ring of Fire? Well, the number one reason is a process called subduction. Can everyone say subduction?
Subduction.
Awesome, you guys are doing great. Well, we're just going to try to keep it simple. And the way subduction works, if you can imagine, use your imagination with me, and the entire planet, so all the hard ground, that's the land you and I are sitting on right now, and all the hard ground under the water in the ocean, think of it as like giant puzzle pieces that are broken up and floating around on top of magma that is under the earth. And sometimes these puzzle pieces ram into each other. And that's what happens all along the Ring of Fire. Okay, my red is not going to show up in magma, obviously. All right, so what happens is the ocean puzzle pieces, we call those plates in geology. So these plates are actually heavier than the continent plates, like in the USA or Guatemala. And so these land plates are lighter, so they go above the ocean plates. And the ocean plates drive deep down into the earth, into the magma. And that causes earthquakes, that slipping, these puzzle pieces that slip by each other. In fact, this just happened in Mexico last week. You may have heard of that big earthquake on the news. And also, besides the earthquakes, it also pushes up magma, which becomes lava when it comes out of the volcanoes. So this is why Guatemala is located along one of these subduction zones out here in the ocean. And it has so many volcanoes. So there's 37 volcanoes in this small country. And that's why it makes it such a great place to talk about volcanoes. All right, so that's our introduction of our locations today. And we are going to first head up and hike up a volcano. But first, we always like to introduce our guest classrooms that we have with us. And we're going to start first with our first guest, which is Mrs. Jefferson's classroom. They are first graders from Clinton, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good morning.
All right, and do you have a fun fact for us today?
Yes.
Okay, share it with us if you would, please.
The volcanoes can be found on ocean floor.
Volcanoes can be found on ocean floors.
Ooh, you are correct. So they can be found on ocean floors. That's a great fun fact. So there are many volcanoes under the water in the world's oceans, not only above land. That's an awesome fun fact. Okay, so we also have another guest classroom with us, which is Mrs. Bunton's classroom from Indiana. So Pendleton, Indiana, they're 4th graders. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
All right, and do you have a fun fact for us today on the Geo Show?
Yes.
Go for it.
Our fun fact is the Ring of Fire surrounds the Pacific Ocean in a horseshoe shape.
Ooh, great fun fact. So we just looked at some of those graphics there. And hopefully, if you want more information about the Ring of Fire, go check out that pre-show video I sent to your teachers. We do have another guest classroom that was in Florida. You may have heard of the hurricane that they just got hit by, so they are not here. So I do have a wait list. So Mrs. Anderson's classroom, let me know in the chat if you guys still want to be on camera. I can bump you up. Just let me know. Just put it in the chat box there. I do give a couple of random shout outs as well. We're changing it up a little bit this year. We're getting quite big audiences. So I want to give a random shout out first to Mr. Gruder's 2nd graders from Sturgeon Bay School in Wisconsin. Shout out to you guys. We also have, let's see, Mr. Olson's classroom, 5th graders from Rochester, Minnesota. Shout out to you guys as well. So we're going to get started with today's Geo Show and hike up an active volcano. Are you guys ready to hike up an active volcano? Well, let's do it. All right, so we are going to visit Volcan Pacaya. If you're wondering why I write Volcan Pacaya, not Pacaya Volcano, that's because in Guatemala they speak Spanish, and this is how they write volcanoes in Espanol, Volcan Pacaya. Now, a couple more vocabulary words before we hike it up this active volcano. Some people get confused by the word active. So we can classify volcanoes into active, dormant, or extinct. So let's break it down a little bit. So an active volcano is a volcano that has erupted at least once since the last ice age. So that's about 10,000 years. So we call those active volcanoes. If it has not erupted within the last 10,000 years, we call those dormant volcanoes. But we think it will erupt sometime again in the future. And an extinct volcano is a volcano that we think is never going to erupt again. So those are the 3 classifications of volcanoes: active, dormant, and extinct. Now I know what you're asking yourself. How can a volcano that erupted 9,000 years ago, how can that be active? Well, you have to remember Earth years are not the same as human years. So if we take the Earth, which is 4.6 billion years old, and we turn that into, say, grandma years, so a 90-year-old grandma, a volcano that happened 9,000 years ago would be about 3 hours ago. So in the terms of Earth years, 9,000 years ago is quite a short amount of time. That's why it's considered active. But we're going to see a very active volcano, Volcano Pacaya. So let's go check it out. Volcano Pacaya is located just south of Guatemala City, the capital of Guatemala. We're going to start off at the visitor center today and hike up through a forest up the volcano, and we are going to check out the lava fields. So let me just highlight this for you here. So all this black stuff you see here, this is lava. Don't worry, we're going to go on the ground. You're going to see all of this stuff. I just want to give you a bird's eye picture of it. So we're going to walk around, check out the lava fields, and we'll be able to see Volcan Pacaya from the lava fields. So Pacaya volcano, how tall is this volcano? It's 8,373 feet. The first eruption happened 23,000 years ago, so a pretty young volcano. But the last major eruption happened in 2014. It has had some smaller ones since then, but the last major one was 2014. So we're going to start off today in the visitor center. And the first thing you do in the visitor center is you meet your guide. So you need to go up to the volcano with a guide, someone that knows the safe places to go and the not safe places to go. We don't want to go there. Okay, so he shows us on the map, on the trail where we're going to hike up to. And to hike up Volcano Pacaya, there are it's a pretty well beaten down path, and a lot of people, a lot of tourists come here to hike up Volcano Pacaya. And if we look on the ground, does everyone notice how the ground, the soil is very dark, is very black? Does anyone have a guess? Let's start with, let's go over to Mrs. Jefferson's classroom. Does anyone in Mrs. Jefferson's classroom have a guess? Why is the dirt so black?
Why do you think the dirt is black? Parker, you have an idea? Layla, you have a question? Come on. Why do you think the dirt is black? Let's go up to the microphone.
Because maybe lava ran down it.
Right, great guess, great guess. So it's not the actual lava, but instead it's the ash. So one of the things about volcanoes, when they erupt, yes, lava comes out, but even worse than that sometimes is ash. And the ash surrounds the countryside, and it just rains ash down on the ground. And that mixes up with the soil, and it actually is very fertile. So it's very fertile soil, great for growing things. When we look out of the view here on the hike up, we get a view of a local community. So this is a local community that lives right next to the volcano. And don't worry, you can live kind of close to a volcano because the lava actually runs down fairly slowly, especially volcanoes located in Guatemala, kind of like peanut butter running down the side of a mountain. So kind of slow and creeping down. You just don't want to be too close to it. But the really cool thing about this community is some people here actually cook their food in the ground. So they'll dig pits, and you can actually, the ground is hot enough here where you can cook food, just like an oven. It's like nature's oven. How cool is that? Okay, let's continue hiking up from our viewpoint on the trail. So we want to go up to Volcan Pacaya. And a lot of people get hungry on the way up. And the really nifty thing here is locals come up and they will sell local fruit. So popular fruit here that grows locally is bananas and mangoes. Does anyone need to use the bathroom? We can stop and use the bathroom if anyone needs to take a pit stop.
No.
No? Okay. Well, don't say I didn't give you an opportunity. All right. So we're going to keep heading up. And on the way, we get to come to another rest stop. And this is an important rest stop to talk about because I said the last major eruption was in 2014, but there was one even larger in 2010. And the one in 2010, right in the spot that we're standing in, left a layer of ash about 3 feet deep. Can you imagine that? So that's like up to your chest for many of you. 3 feet deep of ash. That's a lot of ash. All right, and as we continue to hike up, our guide, right before we get to the lava fields, he stopped and started cutting sticks. And I'll let you guys guess. Go ahead and turn to your partner that you're sitting beside and try to guess what those little sticks are going to be used for. We'll give you a little pop quiz in just a few minutes. See if you guessed correctly. All right, so while you're thinking about and guessing why we have those little sticks, we get to the edge of the lava fields and we get our first sight of Volcan Pacaya. So as we pause it right there, I just want to show you, it's really hard because it is a hazy day, but it's also gas and fumes are coming up out of the volcano. So not only lava comes out of volcanoes, but gases come out from the earth as well. And some of those make the sky kind of hazy when they're coming out. So this is the lava field as we pan across from the edge of the trail here. And the lava that we're looking at now that we're going to hike around, this lava right here came down in a flow from the 2010 eruption. So just remember this date. This is going to be important in a second. So 2010 lava. And over here, does everyone see this little shack? Do you guys see this little shack over here?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that little shack, guess what, is a store. How cool is that? It's called the Lava Store. Now, the cool thing about the Lava Store, in 2009, before that 2010 eruption, the Lava Store was up here. Why do you think they had to move the Lava Store?
Because the volcano could go down and erupt
Right.
it.
Look at that lava, right? So the lava came right where the store was. It would have got burned up. It would have melted if they would have stayed there. So they moved the lava store over. And remember, this lava is really thick. It's like peanut butter when it's coming down. So it runs quite slow. And different volcanoes have different, we call them viscous. All right. So like for instance, in Hawaii, they have a more kind of like honey, so it runs a little bit faster. If you've ever seen pictures of lava in Hawaii. Okay, let's walk around. We're going to get another shot. There's a little bit clearer shots of Pacaya, the caldera up there, and we're going to walk around and down into the lava fields. As you can imagine, the volcano is important. We see a lot of people here. So to the local communities, it brings lots of tourists here that come and hike up the volcano. Now we're going to hike down a pretty steep slope. So I want everyone to be careful. Keep your hands out in front of you in case you fall. You don't want to take a big spill. All right, so we're down into the lava fields now. And again, this lava was from 2010. Keep that number in your heads. And as we start looking around, lava rock is really sharp. I'll show you some up close in just a minute. And it really came down and stacked up really high. So I'll show you a better shot here in a second. This is me walking, so I'm about 6'1" tall. So if I pause it right there, look where I am. I'm 6'1". So imagine how much lava is just stacked up right here. So that's quite a bit of lava that flowed down from the 2010 eruption. And that's Pacaya in the background. Does everyone remember those little sticks that our guide cut up? Well, if you guess that we were going to use them to heat up marshmallows, you would be correct. And guess what, guys? This is lava from 2010. Now, this was from my expedition here last year in 2016. So this is 6-year-old lava that's still heating up marshmallows. How cool is that?
Oh, look how hot it got.
Right, so roasted marshmallows. Now, unfortunately, I did not have chocolate or graham crackers to make s'mores, so I just had to go with the roasted marshmallow. And not only can you heat marshmallows, but I also use it to heat my lunch up. So I put my sandwich on the rocks and heated up my sandwich. How cool is that?
Whoa! Wow!
Would you guys eat lunch off of lava rocks?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and hike across the top of the lava. So don't worry, the lava is cooled enough, even though it's really hot inside. Deep inside the lava, there are certain hot spots that we can heat up marshmallows with. But the crust is very hard, so you can walk across it here. And we're going to head over to the lava store. So we see quite a few people over there. And here at the lava store, some of the local people, some of the local Mayans that live on the volcano in the area, they make jewelry out of lava rocks. It's pretty cool. You can actually look up the lava store, Pacaya Lava Store, and they actually have a market online. So you can either buy it here or their online store. And that's the only places you can get the lava jewelry from Pacaya. So we're going to head out of the volcano lava fields, and we'll get one last shot of one other interesting thing to talk about right here. So it's hard to see in the distance, but this right here is a power plant. And this is really cool because it's a geothermal power plant. So you're watching the Geo Show and geothermal power. What does geo mean? Well, that prefix geo means earth. So that's power that comes from the earth. So they actually make power, electricity, from all of the heat that's inside this volcano. How cool is that? All right, and that is Pacaya. So a couple close-up shots for you. This is lava rock up close, and you can see how sharp it is. Normally, like if you go see a rock at your home, or especially if you get one out of the river and you notice how smooth it is. Well, at one time it was really sharp, just like this lava rock. When it cools really quickly, it's really sharp and jagged, but over time it gets smoothed out by wind and water. We call this weathering. Weathering. Can everyone say weathering?
Weathering.
Right, so when rocks get weathered, they smooth out. All right, again, some of these spots on the lava field is still warm enough after 6 years where you can heat up marshmallows. And this is kind of gross, but it kind of shows you how much ash is just on the ground. And this is when I took my boots off after hiking across the lava fields. You can kind of see all the ash that kind of got into my shoes there. And this is a shot from the 1976 eruption of Pacaya. But again, the last major eruption was in 2014. There have been smaller ones since then, but the last major one was in 2014. And that is Pacaya. And before we open it up for questions, because I get this question a lot, I did ask a man that worked at the lava store, because we get the question a lot, is it scary to live on top of a volcano? And I don't live on top of a volcano, but this man does, and he is the best person to answer it. So I asked him, is it scary to live so near an active volcano?
Well, my name is Fernando. I'm from Guatemala City.
And where do you live now?
I live on top of an active volcano. It's called Pacaya, Guatemala City, Central America.
And are you afraid to live by the volcano?
No, at all. This is such a beautiful place that I invite everyone to experience this beautiful energy of the volcano.
What do you want to do when you die?
I want to spray my ashes on top of the volcano.
Yeah.
This is a very special place for me.
And how long have you lived in?
Live around the volcano for 5 years.
5 years?
5 years. Matios. Matios means thank you in Maya language.
All right, Matios, for answering that question for us. So there you go. There's a little bit of Mayan language for everyone today. Can everyone say Matios? Awesome. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause now to open up the floor for some questions. So if you are not on camera with us today, don't worry, this is an interactive program. So either go up to your Zoom window and type in the chat box your question for me, or put it in, submit it to Twitter at #GeoShow. And I'm only monitoring the #GeoShow. So don't put it to my handle if you know my handle. All right, we're going to start off with, let's go over to Indiana first. And do you guys have a question for us about Pacaya, the active volcano?
How long does it take to get up the volcano?
It took us, now we were stopping for some breaks along the way and taking some rest, but it took about an hour and a half or so to hike up. It wasn't too difficult of a hike to get up there. Great question. And let's go over to Mrs. Jefferson's classroom. Do you guys have a question?
How hot is the volcano?
How hot is it? Oh, great question. So the spots that we were walking on where I heated up the marshmallows on the lava, there were some warm spots. You could put your hand on the lava rock. You can feel, it's kind of like when you walk outside on a hot day and you put your hand on the sidewalk, you can feel it's warm, kind of like that. So not too hot, but when lava first comes out, it's very hot. Now, does anyone, here's a great question for everyone. Does anyone know what lava is called when it's still inside the earth? When it's still inside, we don't call it lava. Does anyone know? Just shout it out if you know. Right, so magma. So it's magma when it's still in the earth, but when it comes out of the volcano, then it is called lava. And lava cools really quickly compared to inside the earth. But the U.S. Geological Service measures lava temperatures in Hawaii. This is the numbers that I have. So the lava can range anywhere between 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 2,120 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's quite hot stuff. You don't want to touch it, trust me. Let's see, Mr. Olson's classroom over in Minnesota wants to know, are there new volcanoes currently forming in Guatemala? All over the earth, there are volcanoes constantly forming. Pacaya, even though it's 23,000 years old, is relatively a young volcano. It doesn't sound young to us, but remember, 23,000 years, remember, if we're thinking like a 90-year-old grandma years, that's only, what, 8 or 9 hours ago in the history of the Earth. So it's still a pretty young volcano. Great question there. Let's see, no questions over on Twitter. Let's do one more that was submitted. Mrs. Clark's class, oh, they wanted a shout out. Excited to be here from Peculiar, Minnesota. Or Missouri, sorry, not Minnesota. All right, so hold on to your questions. We're going to come back and answer to more of those, but we do want to move on. But you get the chance to decide what we talk about next. So go grab your Kahoot devices if you're playing along, because it is time to choose your own adventure, guys. So our next question, don't worry, it's not worth points. What do you want to see next? Do you want to see the old capital of Antigua or Lake Atitlan? All right, more people said Lake Atitlan, so let's transition over to a new area of Guatemala, and this is called Lake Atitlan. So if we look at our map, we'll show you where we're going from. So we were just right about over here at Volcan Pacaya, and we're going to head a little bit west-northwest to Lake Atitlan. Now, Lake Atitlan was formed from an ancient volcano. All right. In fact, about 84,000 years ago, this was a giant volcano that erupted. So this is just a giant crater lake that we are going to see. The lake is even surrounded by 3 younger volcanoes that we're going to check out as well. The lake is a really deep lake. It's over 1,000 feet deep, and it's only getting deeper. That's because there's no rivers that run away, because this is an ancient crater. That means all of the land around the crater is higher. So any rain that falls in the area just gets trapped into this crater. So pretty cool fun fact there. So the 3 young volcanoes is Volcan Tamilan and Volcan Atitlan, which the lake is named after. Volcan Atitlan is 11,598 feet. It last erupted in 1853. So it's been a little while in human years since it erupted. And there's also Volcan San Pedro. San Pedro is 9,908 feet tall. And this is the village or the town of San Pedro. So people live right next to this volcano. And let's go down. The best way to check out Lake Atitlan is on the water. All right, so we're now on Lake Atitlan, and we are paddling past the village of San Pedro, and we get to see some people on the points. See those people on the rocks? Well, this is one of the biggest areas of Guatemala that has local Mayan people that live here. So the Mayans were the people that lived in this part of the world before Europeans came. And so Mayans still come down to the water to wash their clothes and to take baths in the lake. As we paddle around the point, we're going to get to see the 3 volcanoes, or 2 of them. And first we see San Pedro, Volcan San Pedro, right there to the right. We'll get a better shot of it. So as we pan down from San Pedro, right through the clouds, we'll just get a small glimpse of Volcan Atitlan. Now, Volcan Atitlan looks smaller, but that's because it's off in the distance. This is actually the biggest or the largest of the 3 young volcanoes around the edge of the lake. Now, this lake is very important for tourism today. Lots of people come here to ride boats and to paddleboard and to recreate in the water. And it's important for these villages, for the tourism that brings in money to the area. Now, this is an interesting sight to see. If you noticed over here, all of these trees that are dying, well, the reason they're dying is because they're not water trees. They're not meant to grow in water, but they're underwater, so they have died. And did anyone catch earlier, I kind of gave you a clue why they might be underwater. Let's go over to Indiana. Does anyone there have a guess? How do these trees get underwater?
Go. Forget. Sorry, we're on our way.
You're good.
Because the volcano erupted and the water filled it.
Right, so this crater is actually getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So each year when it rains, every time water gets trapped in here, it does lose some water from evaporation, but all the water that comes down in the area just drains right into the lake. And there's no streams or anything running away from the lake, so it's getting deeper. So actually, this lake is actually pretty popular for scuba divers to come to, and they'll scuba dive and check out old buildings are underwater on the edge of some areas of the lake. So really cool there. So Mr. Olson's classroom wanted to know, are there any fish that live in the water? So yes, there are fish that live in this area. Now, here's a kind of a different topic to talk about, but this lake used to be a lot more polluted than it is today. In fact, it got extremely polluted not too long ago, and that's because if we look on the edges there, so remember I said any rain that comes down on this hill over here, all of that rain is something called runoff. Can everyone say runoff? Runoff. So imagine if you're farming, if you have gardens over here and you put chemicals in your garden, where do you think those chemicals end up? You can just shout it out, right? In the water, ends up in the lake. So if this lake doesn't drain anywhere and you have lots of gardens and farmers around the area, all those chemicals, if they use fertilizers and other chemicals on their plants, that all ends up in the water, and that ends up in the fish, and so it becomes polluted. However, this lake is a lot cleaner today. Over the last 10 years, they've done a lot to do more organic farming practices in this area because everything runs right into the water. So that's another thing to think about as far as the health of water. All right. Great, guys. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to run straight over to Antigua. So if you have questions, hold on to them, but we want to wrap up and make sure we get our quiz in for any classrooms that need to run before others. So we're going to jump right over to Antigua. Antigua was the first capital of Guatemala. So I'm going to circle it right over here on the left of your screen. This is Antigua. Today, this is Guatemala City. Guatemala City is the current capital of Guatemala. And they moved the capital because there have been so many earthquakes and volcanoes in Antigua that they finally said, we're tired of rebuilding the capital, so we're just going to move it. And Antigua is a town of about 50,000 people, and it's surrounded by 3 volcanoes. So you get a shot at those 3. The one that's closest is Volcan Agua. And if you have studied Spanish, even just a little bit, you may have recognized that word agua, which means water. So this is water volcano. And the water volcano is 12,340 feet tall. And we're going to head right next to water volcano, which is Volcan Fuego. Volcan Fuego is fire volcano, and it's called fire volcano because this is an extremely active volcano. Remember when I said Pacaya was 23,000 years old? Well, Volcan Fuego is 200,000 years old, so a lot older volcano than Pacaya. And Volcan Acatenango is 13,045 feet tall. This one last erupted in 1972, and this was formed a few thousand years ago. Okay, and those are the 3 volcanoes that are surrounding Antigua. I did not get the opportunity to hike up here, but I did meet a man that runs tours up on top of Fuego, and he lent me this video to share with you guys. So he's going to introduce you to Fuego.
This is the spine of the beast, Volcan Fuego, one of the most active volcanoes on planet Earth. Right now we're walking on what we call the knife ridge. You've got about 1,000 feet drop on this side, 1,000-foot drop on this side. This is a gnarly place to be. And if you look up ahead, you can see the very active cone. Sometimes it just blows. No warning, you just duck and run for cover.
September 13, 2012. The 12,500-foot tall Fuego explodes, blasting lava rocks and ash thousands of feet high, and forcing the evacuation of 30,000 people from the villages surrounding the nearby city of Antigua.
If you can imagine this entire cone blowing apart, it shoots huge chunks of lava rock, sometimes the size of cars, straight up into the air, thousands of feet over your head. This is a belch from the guts of the earth. Volcan Fuego is one of the biggest. We're sitting at about 12,500 feet, going right up to the summit of Volcan Fuego. When there's a large eruption, ash belches out of this volcano. It can obscure and block any plane travel anywhere near this volcano. This gas, this is about as close as you would want to get, unless you had a gas mask. These are fumes coming from the guts of the earth. Chemicals, sulfuric gas, very, very dangerous stuff.
Guatemala's imposing Volcan Fuego is a daily reminder that volcanic weather plays a big role in the long-term forecast for planet Earth.
All right, so that is a brief overview of Antigua and the volcanoes that surround Antigua, including Volcano Fuego. I know you all have lots of questions, but we're going to jump right in to play our Geo quiz. So that way, if any classrooms do need to run, they'll have the opportunity to play the quiz before our 45 minutes are up. So we are going to play Geo quiz. So grab your Kahoots if you need to go somewhere and grab your device. That PIN number again is 344027 if you're not logged in yet at kahoot.it. Today's winner will get a postcard from me. However, teachers, it is your responsibility. If your kids do win, go to learnaroundtheworld.com/prize. There's a Google form. Put your address in there. Snail mail does not work without an address. So I will send you a postcard from me. So good luck to everyone. You only have 10 seconds to answer questions. And the quicker you answer questions correctly, the more points you get if this is the first time you've ever played Kahoot. So let me go ahead and pull up our Kahoot screen. And before we start, technology is great when it works. So let me just double check with, let's see, over in Indiana, can you guys see my Kahoot screen? Oh man, this is amazing when it works, isn't it? All right, let's do it then. Good luck, explorers. Every question from now on is worth points. Good luck. All right, first question. What is the major cause of volcanoes? On the Ring of Fire, is it supernatural causes, subduction, Mother Earth is angry, or hotspots? All right, so a subduction. All right, great job. And let's see, Aiden is in the lead. Great job. Question 2, how many volcanoes are surrounding Antigua? Is it red 1 volcano, blue 4, yellow 2, or green 3? All right, so if you answer 3, you are correct. Oh, we still have the same leader. Are we going to catch them, guys? Next question. When was the last sizable eruption on Volcanoes? When was the last major eruption? Was it red 1976, blue 2010, yellow 2014, or green 1964? All right, so it's hard to get, sometimes it gets confusing talking about dates, but 2010 was the lava that we walked on, but 2014 was the last major eruption. Great job for those of you who got that one. And we have a new leader, so Sawyer is a new leader. Great job. Next question, what caused the formation of Lake Atitlan? Is it red, a glacier, blue, humans, yellow, an earthquake, or green, a volcano? Right, it was a volcano. Sawyer still in the lead. And last one, is Guatemala located on the Ring of Fire? Red, no, or blue, yes? And today's winner is Sawyer. So congratulations to everyone that played today, and congratulations to Sawyer. So just a reminder, teachers, please get me your school address or the teacher of Sawyer so I can send him or her a postcard from me, GOB, from the Learn Around the World Studios. For everyone else that has to run, don't worry, I'm still right here to answer your questions over the next 10 or 15 minutes if you have time to stay with me. But if you have to run and you want to get a question to me, or you want to share your fun facts that you have learned this week studying volcanoes, you can do that at Flipgrid. Go to flipgrid.com/GeoShow, and you can find our GeoGrid. So for everyone else, thank you for joining the show, and keep exploring. So if you do not have to run, don't go anywhere. Keep sending your questions in, and I am here to answer them. Let's start with Mrs. Jefferson's class. Do you guys have to run, or you have a question?
I think we had one more question.
Okay, go for it.
Do you remember? Go ahead and ask. Do you remember? His question was about the gases. How dangerous can that gas be at the top of that volcano?
It can be very dangerous. So if you ever, maybe you guys can find some videos. Maybe I'll send you some videos afterwards of when you watch scientists when they get really super close to lava and volcanoes, right at the cauldron. Then they have to wear these gas masks. And some of them even wear these big kind of like silver suits, and that's heat suits. So that blocks out all that extreme heat. But yes, the gases are extremely dangerous. So if you did not have a gas mask and you got too close, you could pass out. And obviously, if you stayed up there, then it could potentially die. So yes, it's not great for you.
Thank you.
Great question. Do we have any more there?
No, I do. Remember, how do they get the big hole?
How do they form?
The volcanoes?
She's curious. Yes, she's curious about the hole, how it forms in a mountain.
Right. So if I go, let me let's see. The best way to do it is to show you.
He's gonna show us. Answer.
Okay, so what happens, and if we talk a little bit more about the subduction, let me pull that back up. So remember that process of subduction that we talked about? Well, what happens is, I didn't have time to go into this, but the rock that's at the bottom of the ocean actually gets some water in it. And when this rock goes deep into the earth, this water that's in the ocean rock mixes with the magma that's in the earth. And it actually makes it hotter and a little bit more liquidy. And what happens is it starts seeping up through, it finds little cracks and crevices, and it opens up what we call a vent. Can you say vents? Okay, so this vent allows lava to kind of seep up, or magma to seep up through the volcano. And imagine like a big pot on your stove, if you got a top on it, and you have it the heat on high. Well, for a while, everything's going to stay inside. But if enough heat and enough pressure, think about a balloon. If you keep blowing into a balloon, what's eventually going to happen? Right, it's going to pop. So this volcano will start kind of expanding and bowing out a little bit. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to pop. So it's going to erupt. And that lava is going to release out. And the gases are going to release out. And then what happens over time, when we said if a volcano becomes extinct, what happens is these vents kind of close off. There is no more magma coming up. So that's how the volcano will still be there, but there's no more magma inside of it. So that's how we call them extinct, because we don't think they will erupt again. When they're dormant or even active, it still has this magma in here. It's just waiting to pop one day. We just don't know when it's going to pop. Did that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it did.
Okay, great. All right. And let's see. Looks like most people have moved on, and I'm going to go as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. Bye, guys. All right, keep exploring.